Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, where today we are decoding Trump tweets of December 3rd, 2018, and we are giving one big, huge shout out to our brother and sister patriots in France that are standing up to this nasty globalism that is trying to destroy their country. Have you seen the news, Thomas?
Climate Accord has created climate discord in Paris. I don't even know. Have they taken off martial law and economic martial law that happened when they were first invaded? And they denied that they were even being invaded? And now the French people say, no more. $7 a gallon is enough. 30 cents more, that's too much. No, that's not what they're saying. 8 of 10 of them say, get the immigrants who are invaders out of our country. And so you can call it populism, you can call it nationalism.
And by the way, populism has gotten a bad rap as a name. And I say populism is just as good as the word nationalism. And we all need to use it because, look, for 2,000 years, these lizard, reptile, elite people, globalists, thugs, criminals, pedophiles have been ruling this planet to the detriment of the majority of the people on the planet. And it is time to take back the planet and put these elites in their own little bordered area on the earth.
Macron is a Rothschild. He is sold out. He was sold out before he was elected. That proves to you that the election was rigged. Le Pen, who should have been elected not only because she likes to hold kitty cats, but because that is, you could see obviously that the people were responding to her like they were responding to Trump. And so when Trump had so many people that were coming out for him, it was kind of hard to rig the elections against that. But the point is that what's going on in France is about globalism. It's about fighting the climate accord. Remember what we told you? We would be paying, our first installment was like $500 million, and it went up to, I forget how many hundreds of billions in the first year. That was us paying all the other countries, including France. Now France, Macron wants to save money now. What he really wants to do is stop you from using fossil fuels. Okay? Can you imagine? I am the president and I'm going to stop you from using fossil fuels. Shame on you. I'm going to tax you for not believing in carbon footprint, for not believing in the climate, the imaginary climate accord and the climate warming, for not believing in the globalists. I'm going to tax you. That's what it is. And this is the storming of the Bastille. And they're going, in fact, to release the revolutionaries that need to come forth and defeat the globalists, kick the Rothschilds out like they've done in so many other countries, and kick Macron out. I'm sorry, he needs to go.
But the thing is the people out here, we know that there are plenty of other free energy devices and technologies that could replace this whole fear of the petrochemical industry, but they don't do it because that's the way the elite, the global elite, control the rest of us.
Oh, completely. They have to keep us, matter of fact, that tax in France is just to keep them distracted from reality. Because if we woke up to the reality that we were basically being farmed.
We're being farmed. I mean, I get so upset. Look what's going on in California. Those weren't just wildfires. That was an all-out attack on the residents of California in that valley. And then on top of it, we just finished this one with the 2 women who were talking about being removed from their homes by corrupt MERS system, this electronic mortgage system that is displacing thousands of homeowners in the United States. People, we have to stand up against the globalist encroachment of our country or we're going to lose it.
Yes, we know that at least 500,000 people lost their homes in the first round of this when it was so bad before. And now we are hearing from so many people, our listeners, that they're going through it. And it's very, very close to home. This isn't far out in the field. This isn't, you can't say this isn't in your own backyard. It is in your own backyard. It's happening to your friends. They may not be telling you this, but we're hearing it from the subscribers that some people have been fighting this for so long that, I mean, literally, what did one person say, 17 years or something. This is a battle that's raging right now. We're going to bring you some more information on it soon. But what we see in France, that is plain outright good old patriots getting on the street. You call it what you want. Let's just describe it. Those are patriots on the street saying, get the immigrants out. They have destroyed our entire system. And get the globalists out. They're trying to destroy our system in the future. And I support both of those things in France and throughout all of Europe because That was an illegal invasion of Europe created by George Soros and Angela Merkel and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
And supported by the people that were elected. And people, they weren't elected. We show you how these rigged election machines work that are owned by George Soros and Mitt Romney. People on the Privy Council is just awful. All these elections where you stand back and go, how did that person win? You need to start questioning the election results.
Oh, absolutely. In Europe, with Le Pen, the Russians rigged every single election in Europe except when the globalists win. And then, no, there was no Russian influence there. I mean, it is so obvious. Now, remember, I want to say this so that you understand something very clearly. The reason the people are on the streets in France are because they have no more freedom of speech. Because George Soros's Ministry of Speech through the Atlantic Council and this whole organization we've described to you has taken away freedom of speech, even from social networking systems which have been used for all the color revolutions. So the social networking systems have been curtailed. There is no freedom of speech. You can't talk a bad word about an immigrant without being questioned and or even going to jail. You cannot question the authority of Macron and what he's doing unless it's criminal. So they thought to themselves, that's it, we have to go out on the street. Our freedom of speech is gone, but the freedom of our feet is not gone.
And did you see the police taking off their helmets, standing with the Yellow Jackets?
And then singing
yes.
French nationalistic
yes.
populist songs, yes. folks.
And that's what we have to do all around the world. You need to stand up and protect your nation. And you need to kick George Soros and the globalists out of your country.
Amen.
Well, let's get going on the Trump tweets. And again, if you want to read them, just drop into the description box and you'll see the link that takes you right to them. My meeting in Argentina with President Xi of China was an extraordinary one. Relations with China have taken a big leap forward. Very good things will happen. We are dealing from great strength, but China likewise has much to gain if and when a deal is completed. Level the field.
I'm happy to say, first off, thank you very much, Betsy, for inviting me as the spokesperson for the conclave to come and to address these Trump tweets and try to decode them. We sit and we decode them, and I write down some good thoughts here before we come. And what we're trying to let you know is there's a whole lot not being said. And so we're happy to pat ourselves on the back on this first tweet. Why? Because we told you that Trump might as well be sitting in his pool with his Mai Tai in an inner tube, laughing at President Xi of China and just saying, hey, I got all the time in the world, man. You're having to pay me $25 billion right now, which I can build a wall with if I want, and it's just going to get richer and richer for me. So you want to have a tariff war with me? Fine. So what has China done? We told you what would happen. We said that within a month or so, that China would get on its knees and kiss Trump's feet, and that you would start to see deals that you have never, ever seen before that will restructure the entire world. And we predicted thorium and Galt technology, replacing uranium with thorium. We already predicted this, and we predicted that this would arise. Now, further on in these tweets, we just want to pat ourselves on the back a little bit early, but we said that we would see China becoming a vassal of America, China on its knees. China is on its knees now, not quite kissing his feet yet, but soon will be, because why? Trump says, I don't care, let this war go on. I'm paying whatever it takes to my farmers as subsidies until I win this war, and I win the war every single day that it goes on. So go ahead, President Xi. You are losing in One Belt, One Road. You are losing in your totalitarian manipulation of the countries that you buy your resources from. You are losing in all of the markets, all your fake markets, all your attempts at capitalism. You're even losing with the Western oligarchs of America who are moving to China, who are actually going to lose all their investments because you're going to take it away from them. And people like, what's Ma's first name? Ralph? Jack. People have noticed Jack Ma and Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. The 40 Thieves are the communist totalitarian committee. It is sheer insanity to do business with China. So Trump has the winning hand He's got multiple winning hands and cards up his sleeves. And China is backing off. When he says level playing field, that means that's another threat to President Xi. I want zero tariffs. I want an even playing field. And China doesn't want that. China was told by Bill and Hillary Clinton that they would take over America by giving America what they need to be basically consumers, to be conspicuous consumption, so that you get great products for cheap at Walmart. That's what was to take over America. And as long as they could give us enough technology to distract us, and then they kill us with all the poisons they send us from China, and they kill us with 5G, and they kill us with their technology, then what really happens? Our population decreases, and we do to China what Europe did after the Arab Spring, when Obama and Hillary bombed 7 countries and put 60 million refugees out of a home and on the run, basically, to be used for the invasion into Europe. Well, that's going to happen with China. We're going to have China trying to move its population into America. We already see this happening. We've already seen it on the southern border. We've seen, and don't get me started on the southern border. We'll get to there in a minute.
The next tweet. Farmers will be a very big and fast beneficiary of our deal with China. They intend to start purchasing agricultural product immediately. We make the finest and cleanest product in the world, and that is what China wants. Farmers, I love you. Oh my gosh, he loves them.
Yes, he does. And the reason he does is because of the following. What did Putin say he was going to take over the world with?
Organic farming.
Correct. And what is Trump saying here?
That we're going to give the Chinese our GMO'd, irradiated, glyphosate agricultural products. Remember, and the glyphosate, that's done by Bayer. And Bayer is the company, the German company, if you remember your history, that was actually the company that made the poisons that were used in the Auschwitz showers that killed so many human beings. Now, we're going to be spraying our crops with the glyphosates made from the GMOs. We're going to make sure to give them a heavy dose of irradiation, and then we're going to send them to you, China. Have fun with dinner.
Precisely. And we happen to know that the research shows that these GMO soy products will make sure that your pigs cannot reproduce.
Well, either can the people eventually.
Precisely. That's where I was going with
So
that.
Our agricultural products right now are the dirtiest products in the world. And as a homemaker who has to go out shopping every week to try to find organic produce for my family, it is getting to be more and more challenging. I think they deliberately make that organic section of the grocery store smaller and more puny as time goes by, because they're going to just remove all of that from the aisles. But anyway, that's how I feel about that, Mr. Trump.
Well, he loves them because he's giving them subsidies during the time that he's in the battle for the tariffs with China. And he's making China take food. And this is our food surplus. This food surplus gets wasted each year. In other words, he is making money off what is wasted on a product which you just pointed out is American stamped and certified U.S. federal.
No.
But guess what? It's bad. And the only one worse is maybe the plastic rice from China.
Yeah, but they send their fentanyl in to kill us, so we're just going to send our glyphosated corn over to them to kill them.
It's like the reverse opium wars.
Hey, look,
That's
China,
very
this is
good
the last
idea,
stuff
Betsy.
you need. And we need to make a change, too, with our agriculture. And a big change. We need to get these GMOs out, period, of our agricultural seeds. And we need to stop this irradiation because it's killing all the enzymes in vegetables and fruits. And if you're having digestive issues, it's probably because you aren't eating enough enzymes. And then, of course, you've got the whole glyphosate industry. And out in California, a big lawsuit has just won the, I don't know, the victim millions and millions of dollars because of the cancer that he had. And it's been proven. So why do they continue to spray our crops with glyphosates?
Well, as we predicted before it happened, that Monsanto, because of these lawsuits, which they lost and then they won and then they lost and then they were hanging on, that they would sell to a foreign organization, foreign corporation, so that when they go bankrupt, they will not be culpable for the millions of people that they've killed. Because what has happened is there is no embryo on the face of the earth that doesn't have glyphosates in it, in the West, no embryo in the Western Hemisphere. Because why? Because glyphosates are so prevalent that they even travel through the air.
Well, you can't. If you have an organic crop of corn in one field and the glyphosate, you can't do that anymore. So that's why you can't find organic corn anywhere. Hey, look, let's move to the next tweet because I could stay on this subject for a long time. President Xi and I have a very strong and personal relationship. He and I are the only two people that can bring about massive and very positive change on trade and far beyond between our two great nations. A solution for North Korea is a great thing for China and all.
I'll start with the end. The solution with North Korea is China, please stop interfering as you always have. You created North Korea. You are used North Korea as your megaphone. You blame everything on North Korea, from cyber warfare to hacking to whatever. It can't happen. Nope. Nuclear, nope. It's all about you, China. You are North Korea. Stop lying. And by the way, too bad that it didn't work out that your theft of rare earth minerals from North Korea panned out, seeing that Japan just found an infinite resource of them off their shore. So tough luck with North Korea, China, because you are losing it, and it will soon become a vassal of America that will become a manufacturing country for us, and that will also cut into your proceeds. Now, what is really being talked about here? As soon as I read this, I wrote down my thoughts, and I didn't read the one above it, and then I got into a discussion with the conclave, and I said, no, what he's talking about here is thorium. And they're going, what? Nope, what? And then we go to the next one, and he's literally talking about the arms race. So what is he talking about when he says that he has a good relationship with President Xi? That means he recognizes he's a totalitarian communist dictator. I was going to use other words, but I'll use standard words. And that he's not playing a game with him. And Trump is saying, I'm a capitalist. You aren't. You want to be a capitalist, but you cheat. You are totalitarian. You are a fascist. You are a communist. You kill the people who stand in your way of your own stock market, of your own capital interests. And now you've gone crazy with Dragonfly, and you're going to kill you've already killed 750,000.
You know who's evil? All the people, all you employees and engineers that work at Google, you know, you young hip types, you're evil because you're allowing your company, Google, to roll out this Dragonfly to these Chinese people who are being killed because of it. And do you know that your company has the same plans to roll it out in the United States? That's all of us. So these young engineers and employees at Google, you are liars. You want evil just as much as Eric Schmidt.
And if you don't listen to Betsy, this is what's going to happen to you. You will be the first ones weeded out. Don't you get it? Dragonfly is coming after you. And if you don't whistleblow on this, if you don't call this out, if you don't stand up, if you don't throw a monkey wrench in the works of this happening, and it's happening right now in America, in Facebook, through George Soros and the Atlantic Council, we've already pointed this out, you need, before you quit your job and then start to work in a company to work against these kind of social media psyops, you need to basically, as I say, throw the monkey wrench in the works. Cause Facebook to come to a complete screeching halt. Why? Because it's going to anyway. That's the plan. But the sooner we can do it, the better. It'll have less influence upon the next election. So Betsy's absolutely right. You want to talk about communism? You're talking about Google. You're talking about Facebook. You're talking about Twitter. You're talking about all the companies that take the opinions that they don't like and take them down. That is communism. So when Trump is saying only two of us can do this, because you and Russia, China, and America could decide to force Pakistan and other countries to stop their nuclear armaments and to stop all atomic reactors. We don't need any of them. We can transfer all of them over to thorium reactors. They could all be retrofit for very little money. So Trump knows that.
Well, we could have such abundant energy, and we wouldn't have this struggle and pipeline wars all the time.
And what we're talking about is nuclear disarmament. When he says a positive change on trade and far beyond, he is talking about nuclear disarmament. And he's talking about switching to thorium from uranium.
Well,
and
people are going to say, where do you see that in the tweet?
Where do I see this in the tweet?
Where do you see that he's going to switch to thorium? I know we preach it all the time, but where is that in there?
We'll have to read the one above it.
Okay.
No, I'm not done. So first off, he also sat there and said to President Xi, why are we playing these games? We both know about frozen methane. We both know about what Betsy just made reference to, free energy devices all over the place. Why are we playing oil games anymore? Why are we playing gold games anymore? Because your capitalistic attempts to create a new gold-backed currency will never work because you don't have enough gold. And when you tried to fake 8,000 tons of gold manifesting out of the air the other day, we caught you. So Trump is sitting there. You think that people have no idea. The whole world is dependent upon conversations between him.
Mike,
don't yell on the mic, but I
yell
get
on the
so
mic.
upset.
I know, okay.
People don't understand. They want to try to say, oh, Trump had sex with a whore while he was married to Melania, and that's what they're stuck on, instead of the historic reality that no one has ever successfully, ever worked with China without being manipulated by China. The Clintons were manipulated by China. Why do you think they need money now? Because China ripped them off. China is ripping off Eric Schmidt. They're ripping off Facebook.
Good.
Why do you think Facebook is backed off of China?
Well, we did ask countries around the world to help us eliminate the Hillary Clinton problem. So if China is doing that, then that's a bonus for them.
Now, here's the problem. China went out and bought every mountain of metal that is used to make batteries. And then we changed the substance that we use to make the futuristic batteries. So then they now have to manipulate those countries, and those countries are getting very tired of China's strong-arm, totalitarian, communist manipulations, and so now they're coming in, China's coming in with crazy economic manipulations of these countries that were supposed to be their friends and supposed to be part of the One Belt, One Road. The One Belt, One Road is dying. Taiwan has not been taken over by China because of Trump's actions. North Korea will become free of China's manipulation. South Korea will become free of the basic continuous threat of China through North Korea.
Remember,
this is all happening right now.
We had a great idea for North Korea a few months ago. We said, hey, why doesn't it become the thorium energy capital of the world?
If Little Kim did that, he would become a major player in a matter of a couple of years. So China has forgotten that they may manufacture things for us, and that was the Clintons' plan to take over America. No more manufacturing in America whatsoever. And therefore we become what? Vassals of our state that makes our things. That would be China. And so what did China forget? China forgets that if we decide not to consume it, that they are not self-sufficient.
Well, that's because
and they will falter and die.
They didn't understand it's a consumer too, and that's a big part of it.
We are in control of China's economy.
Okay.
And Trump knows that, and that's why he's sitting back drinking his Mai Tai.
I am certain.
Oh, he didn't drink. I'm sorry. I made that part up.
I am certain that at some time in the future, President Xi and I, together with President Putin of Russia, will start talking about a meaningful halt to what has become a major and uncontrollable arms race. The U.S. spent $716 billion this year. Crazy. Oh my gosh, the globalists are going to totally be out of their minds about this, because this is how they skim money from the world. It's the military-industrial complex.
This is a declaration of war upon the military-industrial complex, exactly as you just said. The warlord bankers and brokers, this made them cry. Why? The arms race is what it's all about. NATO wouldn't exist if it wasn't the nuclear threat. Sorry, I'm railing again. The nuclear threat of Russia. The nuclear threat of Russia? Really? Who did the Russians ever nuke? Really? When have we had a nuclear standoff with Russia? Remember, they have tactical nuclear weapons just like we do. Has a single one ever been fired? Folks, it is a myth. The Cold War is a myth. Let me explain to you why it's a myth and why Trump says this. Trump is a businessman. Now, let me explain something to you that is going to blow your mind, unless you are one of our devout subscribers who know what the anonymous patriots have already revealed through their intelligence reports, and it is this, that a long time ago, Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton set up a thing called megatons for megawatts, where we bought depleted nuclear warhead uranium from Russia, downgraded it, brought it to America, upgraded it in our own facilities, which we paid for, and then let the Russians sell it to our own nuclear facilities. Instead of us just digging up our own uranium, but we don't own our own uranium now, do we? Most of the uranium is owned by Rio Tinto, which the Queen owns. That would be Queen Lizzie. And then the rest that was kind of unclaimed was bought by Uranium One through the Clinton little trick with CFIUS to make sure that a Canadian fake company that really sold all their rights to Putin, literally through Rosatom, then was able to come in and get our uranium. So folks, when we're talking about an arms race, there is no arms race. Guess who is dismantling our own warheads in America and taking the uranium and simply downblending it in some cases and not in others, and simply sending it out to nuclear power plants in America and making a ton of money doing it? That would be a Russian company, the same one. It's now been changed. Its name used to be the U.S. Uranium Enrichment Company. Now it's called Fusion LLC, and they have the contract. The Russians, folks, are enemies, folks. The people we have to have treaties to ask them to please don't blow us up, and then we won't blow you up. And, no, look closely. They went from 40,000 missiles down to just a few thousand. The Russians have been very good at turning those missiles off and selling the uranium to us as one of their biggest deals that nobody seems to know a single thing about. And the Queen was doing her part to try to steal the uranium here, too, and get in on that market. So when we're talking about an arms race, there is no arms race. And when we're talking about China getting in on this, okay, first off, the uranium, the richest uranium in the world, is in Kazakhstan, and then in Canada, and then in Australia, and then huge amounts are in Iran. So what we're talking about is uranium, and we can simply never, ever, ever, ever have anything to do with uranium again. We switch over to thorium. Thorium eats up the nuclear waste as it runs these plants. You only need a tiny bit of even radioactive material to start a thorium plant. That's all you need. And then it eats nuclear waste. So that's what Trump wants to talk to them about. He wants to do a quadrillion deal because he's not happy doing. Remember, when he got out of the climate accord, that was $5 trillion.
He says think big. And if we can think this big, then we know Trump can think even bigger. Going on to the next tweet. We would save billions of dollars if the Democrats would give us the votes to build the wall. Either way, people will not be allowed into our country illegally. We will close the entire southern border if necessary. Also, big caps here. Stop the drugs.
This is very powerful, of course. It seems to be the same message as always. It's not. When he says the billions of dollars that he needs, remember, he needs $25 billion, and we spend per year $26 billion on illegal alien medical care for prenatal, postnatal care. In other words, just in 1 year, we spend more money than it would need to create the entire border on illegal aliens that shouldn't even be here, who shouldn't even receive these and should have been sent back from the beginning, but Obama invited them here. So don't also forget that the rogue CIA brings the heroin across the southern border. Okay, Afghanistan war, a huge part of it was about the opium, and now the opium is coming from other places. But what he's talking about is not just that drug and the opiates that come across through illegal transfer from American pharmaceutical companies, but we're talking about the Chinese pharmaceutical companies who send fentanyl to this country that is 10 to 1,000 times stronger than fentanyl is supposed to be, because it's just unregulated and these pills are crazy. Well, guess what? Recently, they had a sting where they seized enough fentanyl from China to kill every American. Because it only takes one of these pills to kill you, folks. Every single American could have been killed by the fentanyl coming across our southern border. So if you don't believe in having a southern border, then you are basically just supporting this type of drug activity, human trafficking, death, murder, pharmaceutical manipulation of America, the eugenics of America, the attempt to wipe out America, and you do not understand it is the presidential authority to contain security and our own safety within our borders, and he can do whatever he wants. He can take that money any way he wants. He's just being nice about it.
Look, if you wanted to take over another country and get rid of them, I mean, you could drop nuclear bombs, so that gets really messy. So I could just see the Chinese back there and go, hey, why don't we send them some really bad drugs? They'll kill themselves. And that's what they've done, people. They're sending to us the very thing they want to happen to our young people all across America who are taking these drugs and dying.
It is an attack. Do not forget, our southern border is in a war. And that war is killing people as we speak. During this single broadcast, well, let me just point this out, that 60,000 people a year die from the pharmaceutical opiates given out by doctors in this country. Those are the people who are on doctors' orders to take those pills. That is not the people who die from the opioid crisis and from these illegal pharmaceutical drugs coming across our southern border.
The next quote starts out with a quote. Michael Cohen asked judge for no prison time, close quote. You mean he can do all of these terrible, unrelated to Trump things, having to do with fraud, big loans, taxes, etc., and not serve a long prison term? He makes up stories to get a great and already reduced deal for himself and get his wife and father-in-law, who has the money, off scot-free. He lied for this outcome and should, in my opinion, serve a full and complete sentence. And you know what? After they get Cohen for doing this, they need to go after Mr. Comey. He did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he needs to have a full and complete sentence. And don't talk to me about lying to Congress. Are you kidding? I want, when you haul Comey in, that you need to do for treason. Let's get real, people. This man committed treason. Well, I know I'm banging on the table.
Bang! Want me to bang on the microphone?
Yeah,
boom,
know,
boom, boom. Because you know what? He needs
on.
a boom, boom, boom.
Tired of people mollycoddling us, and I'm tired. Have you listened to the mainstream media go on and on about this mass murderer's death? You know, that George H.W. Bush scum of the earth. Oh, they had him in the Capitol Rotunda, and everybody be coming through, and what an amazing man he was. He was a piece of shit to this country and to the world. He murdered millions of people, and our fake news media expects the people out here to see him as some glorified hero?
My sentiments exactly, Betsy.
Oh, you go ahead with a tweet.
Well, Michael Cohen is another piece of garbage. All right, Michael Cohen, first off, he's insinuating here that his dad is, of course, a criminal. Well, his dad is the criminal, his father-in-law. And it's a long history of criminality, but Michael Cohen was always the best fighter on the street. That's the reason he got all those taxi medallions. He basically became the taxi mob king. I mean, who didn't know that he was the taxi mob king? The taxi mob king, do you think he ever committed any crimes if he was the taxi mob king? And then he was the real estate specular fixer of New York. If you had a criminal deal going down, he was there. He was either there trying to get the job, or he's on one side or the other, or whatever. No. He was always where there was dirt. And Trump used him because all the dirt that was being thrown at Trump and all the attacks, he had to have evil to fight the evil. And let's remember, who is Michael Cohen's associate? That would be Felix Sater. That would be Comey's asset that was used again and again. Remember, Comey sent Felix Sater with a fake letter to Michael Cohen, and they had supposedly a lunch. They never did. And that Michael Cohen was supposedly going to take a letter to Trump stating, here's a deal. I'm writing out how you drop the sanctions on Russia. There was no letter. There was no lunch. That letter was never given to Trump, and Trump never heard that. And yet that was going to be one of Comey's attempts, what I call 28 Comey treasonous actions. But that was one of his 28 treasonous actions right there. He faked that letter, he faked the meeting, he faked the whole thing, and then he released it to the press over and over again. And when that wasn't good enough, he sent Felix Sater out in multiple interviews to talk about this in the press until they basically said, this is the Russian collusion. Here is Felix Sater testifying that Michael Cohen was working with the Russians to drop the sanctions. Oh, Michael Cohen was also the bag man for the Russian dossier. He was going to Prague on a regular basis to receive bags of money for Trump, right? Remember, that's what the dossier says. He never went to Prague, ever, in his life. But he was the bag man. That's kind of funny. And Michael Cohen, he's a sissy because he. What about Manafort? Manafort moved some money off an offshore account into New York to buy his daughter an apartment, basically, is really the tax evasion. That's really all he did wrong. And yet, because he didn't register as a foreign agent, neither did the Podesta brothers. They worked on the same exact case with the same 3 Ukrainian oligarchs. So, Michael Cohen, you sissy, you want no time? You're one of the biggest criminals in New York. You're one of the largest, most recognized, publicly recognized criminal lawyers in New York. We all knew this when Trump got you. And we all said, oh, whoa, this guy is criminal. We all knew Paul Manafort had committed crimes and that he was hated by the Democrats because he had fought with them in Ukraine and won twice. $4.7 million that the State Department used to try to defeat Paul Manafort's genius to get Viktor Yanukovych elected twice in Ukraine. And they couldn't defeat Paul Manafort, but they sure defeated him when Herr Mueller went after him.
I know you could do a whole audio on
I'm
that.
not done with this.
Okay.
I'm only started. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty for campaign irregularities with who? Horseface. Stormy Horseface whore? Are you kidding me? David Brock was publicly announced that I saw with my own eyes twice with 4 whores standing there that he was going to pay these 4 whores $385,000 to claim that they had had sex with Trump while he was married to Melania. This was in the news before she ever did it. That $385,000 because of Michael Avenatti's criminal actions recently, she doesn't get to keep the $385,000. And where does the $385,000 go? To Trump's lawyers, because Michael Avenatti in her case was thrown out and they had to pay for Trump's lawyers. So the money was taken, it was seized and given to Trump, and it's only a part of what she has to pay.
So that means that every time she's lying on her back, getting a little payola for it, she's working for Trump?
Correct, for the rest of her life. No, I'm not done, okay? Because when we talk about Michael Cohen, we're talking about horrible, horrible corruption, right? We're talking about why did Trump hire this horrible lawyer? Because he was fighting horrible people.
Well, if you read The Art of the Deal, you'll see that he does that. He's done that in his whole career.
Trump had Cohen and Manafort. Hillary had the Podesta brothers, Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, and then other ones on top of that, plus George Soros, plus all the corruption. So it was an outright war between opposition research companies and bad legal companies. And Perkins Coie shows up where there's anything that's bad. So when Cohen lied, what Trump means, when Cohen lied, he lied, and remember he had the tape, and remember when they were so proud that they stormed like stormtroopers, Herr Mueller and his stormtroopers, went in and stole these tapes, and there were tapes of Cohen's, because they'd heard that Cohen had tapes of all of his clients. So they got the tapes, and they had the tapes on Trump, and they said, now we have Trump, and then they played the tapes, and the tapes don't say anything. The only thing the tapes say is, get me a Diet Coke. There's some reference there where Cohen is making some reference to some crazy thing, and Trump is going, yeah, whatever, get me a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
That's the whole tape, folks. That was the big CD that she had that was going to take down Trump. That was the big tapes that Michael Cohen had that were the only evidence that Mueller had of any kind of collusion or this was election manipulation or irregularities. No, it wasn't. Trump didn't pay that person $380. He did not sign a non-disclosure agreement. These are all just stupid lies. It's already been proven. And so when we talk about Cohen, we are talking about total dirt scumbag. And same thing with Manafort and Rick Gates. Yeah, hello? That's what politics takes. But Trump didn't get involved in any of the illegality because he didn't need to. He didn't need the money. He wasn't kowtowing to anybody. He turned down tons of money. He didn't need their money. And so therefore, he didn't commit those crimes.
He continues the tweets. Quote, I will never testify against Trump, close quote. This statement was recently made by Roger Stone, essentially stating that he will not be forced by a rogue and out-of-control prosecutor to make up lies and stories about President Trump. Nice to know that some people still have guts.
Yeah, nobody's made up any lies about Trump except one, and that's Cohen, pleading guilty to something that is not a crime, to make it look on television and the mainstream media that Trump did something wrong. Now, Roger Stone was part of the Manafort group. And so Roger Stone was part of the same thing that happened at Fusion GPS. They've been doing it for years. They've been making presidents, unmaking presidents, both in America and other places. Roger Stone's a very powerful person. He's being ruined financially because of the lawyers that he has to hire. He and Jerome Corsi made two little mistakes, or one mistake. They lied in public about having a connection to Guccifer 2.0. And one of them lied about where their source was for hearing that WikiLeaks, both of them lied about this also. So there's kind of an obfuscation and there's a lie. Both of them are caught in. They could both go to jail. Poor Jerome Corsi's saying that his life is over and that and he's crying like a baby that he's going to go to jail and end up dying in jail. I doubt it because he's actually SES and he's part of the group.
He's a friend of Mueller's from way back. I'm not concerned about
now,
him.
Stone he lied. He said that his information came from one place. It didn't. It came from another. I think he simply forgot. It's a place that I had forgotten about, too. That guy who had been a witness who had died, he committed suicide under very suspicious circumstances. Now, when we're talking about people being ruined, we're talking about Sam Clovis, who was on the Trump campaign, Manafort, Gates, Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, and dozens and dozens and dozens of others. I forget. I think there's 32 agreements that Trump has with 32 of his team who they're trying to ruin their lives, and they're doing a pretty darn good job of ruining most of them. So when he says that Roger Stone says he'll never testify against Trump, what he means is he won't make up a lie like Cohen did.
The next tweet, Bob Mueller, who is a much different man than people think, and his out-of-control band of angry Democrats don't want the truth. They only want lies. The truth is very bad for their mission. And so I thought about this. Okay, we're finished with the tweet. Who is much different man than most people think. So I don't know what most people think. I know what the people that I know think. They think he's a globalist. He's a senior executive service Nazi. He's running the coup d'etat against the president of the United States. Is there anything else that we need to know about Bob Mueller?
Well, remember when he came in, they said that they knew that Bob Mueller would be chosen because Comey had set it up that way. I mean, those are Comey's words. He said, I was forcing this through a leak that would demand a special investigation and a special counsel be appointed to do this investigation. What they'd already talked about in the tweets, in the text messages back and forth between Strzok and Page about who might be called in. Well, Comey's best friend is Robert Mueller. So what we have here is, from the beginning, just plain old, simple old collusion, because when they said, should Bob Mueller head this special investigation, they said there's no one with higher ethics in Washington, D.C. You have Trey Gowdy defending this man to this very day. You have people defending him and literally wanting to create laws, pass bills that say that no one can interfere in the Stormtrooper Herr SS Mueller's counterintelligence operation against the president. Nobody can interfere in this coup d'etat, and we've appointed Horowitz, and don't you worry, Horowitz has 6 or 7 investigations going on right now, and it's all under control because he's already pointed out that in the first investigation, whether there was any political bias between the FBI and the CIA, there was none. There was none, according to him. And Andrew McCabe, he didn't have candor a couple times. That was investigation number 1.
Needs to go down for treason too.
Absolutely. The other 7 will be exactly like the first one, folks.
We need to go all the way. We need to get these treasonous, traitorous thugs out of our government. And thank goodness there's one less one that's going to be buried on Wednesday. And Trump tweets out, looking forward to being with the Bush family to pay my respects to President George H.W. Bush.
His tongue is so far in his cheek, it's going through his cheek. Being with those people is a presidential thing that he will do because it's part of that, but he also knows their corruption. This is a person who, long before politics, spoke out against these people and said that they were liars. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Attacking Iraq twice without any congressional approval. I mean, Trump called them out and basically called the Bush family criminals from the beginning.
Let's get those JFK papers and release the whole thing. The American people need to know if George H.W. Bush was behind the assassination of our beloved John F. Kennedy.
Well, there's no doubt that he was part of one of the 6 teams. We have enough evidence to demonstrate that without even being circumstantial.
Then why is he going to the Capitol with a funeral in the rotunda when he can be directly tied to the assassination of Kennedy?
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but since you ask, I'm going to tell you. Why do you think Trump did not release all of the Kennedy papers?
Well, I know that. That's why I'm saying he should.
Because Bush was still alive and he was the murderer, one of the murderers.
Yes, but now that Bush is buried, let's get those things redacted.
It's possible.
What, or is he going to hold on to them until that Bush Jr. dies? I mean, at what point do the American people get the truth of what their government has been doing to them? This has been going on since we were born, Thomas.
Absolutely, Betsy. We have seen this. It has just made us sick to our stomach. But we're seeing the first president in our lives take steps against this. Now, there were fake presidents like Jimmy Carter, who for a moment we thought, oh, he might be a nice guy. And then we find out BCCI paid him to become the president. He's rogue CIA before he ever went into the election. So you want to look at any of them, you're going to find great disappointments. But here's the deal. We are in a new age. We are in the Second American Revolution. We are reestablishing our constitutional republic. And as long as we keep Trump in the White House for a second term, then his new people saying he's destroying the Republican Party. Good. He's destroying the Democratic Party also. Bernie's going to announce soon that his radical socialism, he already did just the other day, is splitting the Democratic Party. He's announced he is splitting the Democratic Party. They will have no chance against Trump in 2020. And then after that, they'll have no party, because as long as there's a socialist, fascist, remember, National Socialism, okay? When we're talking about nationalism, we're talking about Americanism. We're not talking about a nationalism that was insanity based upon creating a Third Reich. We're not talking about a populism that turned into what became fascism in other countries in Europe. We're talking about the people having a voice, and that our elected officials do what we tell them to do, or they're out. And that the federal government be shrank to the point that it stop encroaching upon the state government. That the IRS simply be turned off. We don't need it. And that betting on the stock market, tax-free betting on mortgages, tax-free betting on hedge funds, tax-free betting...
And that every mortgage has a paper deed.
Exactly.
And every vote is on a paper ballot.
Exactly.
You cannot let anything go into digital space, because these people have shown you what they do. They steal you blind in cyberspace.
George Herbert Walker Bush's main deal was to create a centralized government of the United Nations by doing it digitally. And that is what Obama almost had set up, called the U.S. Digital Service. We were 1 inch away from being so electronically digitalized that there would be no more human freedoms in America. And then what we now see as no freedom of speech in Europe would have just simply been put into place, because Hillary was already working with Facebook to take that away in the 2016 election. So what we're saying is, China, it's good to see you down on your knees. Russia, keep making those organic vegetables. And Trump, keep leading us, because we've never seen a president like you before. Thank you.